Good morning and welcome to another week of ScriptGym. Today is Monday morning, January 15th, 2024. Happy Martin Luther King Day, which is why we're meeting asynchronously here on video as opposed to in person, which we would normally be doing on a Monday. So instead, we're going to meet tomorrow, Tuesday, January 16th, in person. A lot to do today. It's a very exciting day. I have a couple of quotes that you'll see on the discussion board and behind me. I know it's backwards, but let's see. Courage is an inner resolution to go forward despite obstacles. Courage breeds creativity, and nothing could be more pertinent than going forward despite obstacles as pertaining to what we're going to talk about today, which is, yay, the beginning of Act 2. So that's pages 31 to 40. But we'll talk about that later. First things first. Oh, I did have another quote as well. All progress is precarious, and the solution of one problem brings us face to face with another problem. And that also really pertains to Act 2. It's just one obstacle problem even as they go forward after another, changing of direction and goals and so on. So we'll start today with something a little bit different, kind of a guided meditation. I've put that on the discussion board. You can follow along. It's about 10 minutes, and you just sort of, it's more for the mind than it is for the body. And then there's a yoga warm-up there, which is 10 minutes or so, very gentle. And the two work very much in tandem together. So it's really getting you centered on this brand new week to be able to go forward, which is what we're hoping that you're going to do. Beyond that, we will then have a writing exercise. So I'm going to give you, obviously, the 10-minute writing exercise. It's simple, it's fun, it's creative. It just allows your unfettered, uncensored creativity to go forward. So what I'd like you to do is very simple, 5 items. It's a classic question. What are the 5 items that you would take to a desert island? That's all. It could be a piece of music. It could be something to cook with. It could be anything that you want, but that they're must-haves. And doesn't mean you're going to take your phone because you can get service there. So anything that you would take to a deserted island. So stop the tape, stop the lesson for 10 minutes, time for 10 minutes, and then come on back. Welcome back. I hope you had a fun 10 minutes writing about I do apologize for this light. It's a bright, beautiful, sunny day, so but it also flashes in my face as I'm on the video. So let's talk about Act 2, which is where you're at. You finished ostensibly Act 1. Now we're assuming page 31 is where Act 2 begins. This is just a guide. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It could have been page 24. It could have been, depending on how long your script is going to be. Generally, you want to figure you're about 25% of the way in. So wherever that happens to be, for a 100-page script would be closer to page 25. For 120, a 2-hour film would be somewhere around page 30. But just use, again, as a guide. Let's just say this is where Act 2 is beginning. Let's talk about Act 2. This is the journey. This is where the obstacles, think of the word obstacles all along the way. This is where Dorothy lands in Oz, and then the journey, the yellow brick road, is her path lying ahead. First things first. Just congratulations on getting to page 30. That's very exciting. And the scripts are coming along great. Which I normally don't do, but I've had an opportunity to read through them, and really, very impressed with where you're at. So you made it here. You've made it to page 30. Out of the first act, onto the second act. So again, to Drum it into your head. The second act is all about obstacles. Think of Up as another movie. That's when they land on the island. But that's when the troubles really begin. It's all the setup, who they are, getting to that point of no return. So you're going to need to, I mean, like I said, you're somewhat masochistic in the sense that you're, or not masochistic, sadistic. You're making it as difficult as possible on your characters, whom, you know, we've come to know and care about. But you're going to put a lot of stuff in their way. Just when you think the situation can't get worse, it does. And when there's no way at the end of the act that the hero can get out of the jam, somehow you figure out a way there is. So this is the beginning of the journey, as it were. Okay. This is where they hit the first stumbling block, a conflict that makes them realize that things may not go as planned, but they've already sacrificed enough. They've left everything behind. It's a sobering realization. They have new goals. Again, you know, they're going toward the wizard. There's obstacles, but there's also things that can help them along the way. She sees the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and the lion and, you know, all these things. And they're following this path. It's the voyage of discovery, if that's what you want to call it. It's filled with wonder, but it's also filled with hurdles. So something happened to your character. What are they going to do now? So they have to make choices. You know, their first attempt at fixing the situation doesn't necessarily work. In fact, you hope it doesn't work. You don't want them to figure things out 100% along the way. So usually the first attempts fail. Ramifications, it's important to know what happens because of these attempts, that there's an increase in complications because of decisions that they make. This is very important. This is where your subplots come in. This is where your secondary character, your B story, your C story, whatever that happens to be. And you could have your main character in one of these subplots. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the other person's story. There could be a romantic subplot that's not the main story, but it's layered with the story that you have. This is when you deal with your antagonist. This is when you show us the antagonist world. We get to know them. We get to know, and now if it's a physical thing, if it's a disease, obviously we're not going to get to know the history of that disease, an asteroid. But if it's a person that's manipulating things, that's making things difficult for your character, your main character, then we want to get into their world. You can veer off from the main story and deal with them. Again, I talked about Bridesmaids, a great friendship comedy. The B story is not about the friends and the bridesmaids. The B story is our main character in a romance with the cop, if you remember. You've already set that up. So a solid subplot, you know, carefully intertwines the main tension and the theme together. So something happened. What are they going to do now? That's 30 to page 40. That's escalating tension, you know, that you have. And I can give you some examples. So obstacles. Scott Pilgrim versus the world. His obstacles are Ramona's 7 evil exes, whom he must defeat, with each battle becoming increasingly more difficult. This is where they not only gain, obstacles, but they also gain allies, which we talked about: the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, the Lion. And when Harry met Sally, the subplot is a romance between his best friend and her best friend, and it intertwines with theirs because it makes them look at, well, they found love, what are we doing, kind of thing. So just think of, in terms of increasing obstacles, subplots, antagonist. This is all leading up eventually to your midpoint. Now, you're not going to be at your midpoint necessarily at page 40 unless, you're really writing kind of a shorter script. But if you're writing a 90, 100, 120, you're probably not going to get there yet. That'll we'll talk about the next class. So figure this is all, it's continued setup in a sense, and decisions that they keep making. They can't go back, so they're trying to go forward, but they're not having necessarily good luck doing it. They may have a short victory here, or, but ultimately things aren't necessarily working out as well as they want, especially when we show the increasing success and strength of the antagonist. So as they kind of go like a seesaw. As the antagonist goes up, your protagonist goes down, and vice versa. So that's what you want to focus on today, as you begin your Act 2. And as I've said many times, this is when things tend to falter in scripts. They tend to repeat themselves. They run out of obstacles. They don't add allies. They aren't sure where this goes. They know where they want to get by the end of the act and ultimately how to resolve it, but they're not sure, how do I make it compelling, especially in, say, a road movie? How do you add elements, of obstacles and conflict and crisis throughout without overstating it? So you have to make them varied. And like I said, subplots, whether it's a main character subplot or secondary characters, this is where you really start to build up these secondary characters, including your antagonist. And you should get there, no problem. So once that's finished, that's the end of our lecture. Now we're going to talk about your workout for the day, which is just a continuation. We would have been doing this in person. This is 40 high knees, which we know, as I have said every single time, bring your knee to your elbow, not your elbow to your knee, because I don't want you straining your neck. Don't pull too hard down your neck. Then a 50-second plank. So time yourself 50 seconds. You can either do it on your elbows or do it, as a full plank on your hands. 30 lunges. Go down to a right angle and switch back and forth. Each left leg is 1, right that makes 2, 3, 4, and do that for 30. Then a 50-second wall sit. And then you should have a wall at your home, which is good, I hope. And time yourself 50 seconds. We started at 15 and now we're at 50. Pretty soon we'll be at a minute. And that's a hard one, but make sure you get down to a right angle. Then 17 push-ups. Like I said, I've decreased them a little bit because I know they've been hard. So once you're done with that, you can do any kind of push-up that you want. Just make sure you go down slowly to 2 count, and up slowly 2 count. It's very easy to do them very fast and get the momentum, but it's a lot harder. And you can do it, as your hands are close, it works the more inner chest, and as you go out, it works your outer chest and also even your back as you go beyond shoulder length. Finish the workout. Doesn't mean that you can't work out beyond that. I'd love for you to take a hike, or not get out of here, but literally take a hike or do some weights or go for a run or do something, where you're outside. And then after that, at any point sometime today, please write. I would get started right after your workout, write pages 31 to 40, and submit that before 9 o'clock tomorrow. You can do it. I know you can do it. Now today, if you do have some time, or at least keep in mind, this is, honoring Martin Luther King, so they tend to do that with, with following service in some way, help someone else in some way. But just follow, essentially what he said. It's about courage and persistence and obstacles. And I couldn't find a more pertinent thing to apply to what your character is going through. But let's, remember this day. It's a very important day, and I respect the fact that we're, not meeting in person because of it. But I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, and really, moving forward with your scripts, which, as I say, I've read most of them so far, all the pages, not quite, but most of what have been submitted so far, and I'm really impressed with what work you're doing. So, pat yourself on the back a little bit. You should be really proud of it. I know it's hard. I know it's a difficult proposition to do that every day, but if you get into that habit, That's the idea. Is, like I said, it's its own entity, but it's also a metaphor into itself. You can do that. You can certainly apply these techniques: inspiration, motivation, dedication, commitment, and action to just about anything in your life. And so I'm proud of you. I will see you tomorrow, Tuesday, and have a wonderful day. And if you have any issues, just don't hesitate to contact me, and I will see you in the morning. Okay, take care.